Hi, I'm Toni Williams, and this is Brooklyn Savvy. Hi, I'm Toni Williams, and welcome to Brooklyn Savvy. We are so pleased to be joined by all these lovely ladies here in STEM careers, no less. But we're going to be talking about STEM and, most importantly, construction, because the issue is there are so few women in construction. We're looking at how can we increase those numbers. And since you ladies are already in the field, we want to talk to you about what the challenges are, what you need to do to prepare, and all of that on this episode of Brooklyn Savvy. So let me introduce who we have. We have Kathleen Culhane. Now, you're the president of Nontraditional Employment for Women. And we have Mimi Raygorodetsky. Yes! Now, you're from Langan Engineering and Environmental, and we have Marilisa Stigliano, and you're from AECOM. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. And I got through all those names, so I'm happy. I can stop now. but anyway, let's talk about your business, basically, or your nonprofit, Non-Traditional Employment for Women. I've always been so thankful. There's a lot of gratitude I have for the work that you do, because you're going into low-income communities and helping these women be gainfully employed. So talk about your program and the contribution you make to women.
Well, thank you, Toni. And I appreciate the appreciation for the work that we do. Non-Traditional Employment for Women, or NEW, is in its 41st year of training.
I like NEW.
Yes,
I love NEW. Because it is a mouthful.
It works, it works,
yes.
right?
It does.
We're in our 41st year of training and placing women in the building and construction trades.
And you said placing, which is so important.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So, nationwide, the needle hasn't moved a lot in those 41 years, but in New York City, we lead the way, like we do in so many things. And so working really closely with the building and construction trades and all the apprenticeship programs in New York, we've really seen that increase, where in that last decade, we've seen some numbers really rise.
So when you're talking about placing women in construction trades, are you talking about plumbing, electricians, and carpentry? And how are you making that happen with the unions? How do you do this?
Exactly.
So that's like hard to do.
So it's an uphill battle.
Right.
It's an uphill climb for these tradeswomen, but they're amazing. And so how we do it is that we have a program that works. And so the women that come out of our program, about 400 women a year, go through our program, and they're ready to go into the apprenticeship. And then, in the past just decade alone, we've had slots with each of the apprenticeship programs, so the carpenters, the electricians, the plumbers, the painters, the laborers, slots for our graduates. They just increased those slots by 50% last year. So
what
now
was the motivation for that?
Continuing to look at, do our trades programs and do the people that are building our great city reflect the diversity of our great city?
Okay.
So that's where the set-aside came about a decade ago, and that's where the increase is coming from. We know we continue to need more workers, and we want those workers to reflect the city, so we want it to be women, and we particularly serve women of color.
Are there quotas, though? In terms of you have to hire so many women or allow so many women into these slotted positions?
So this is set by the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York, helped us increase it by 50%. So now it's 15% of each apprenticeship class is set aside for graduates of our program. And then all of the trades work, and that's set by both the trades and the employers as well. And then New realized about a dozen years ago that we also needed to set goals on projects. And so we have a new signature projects program now in its 9th year, where 56 projects have set goals for tradeswoman hours for the life of the project, making sure that women continue to be in demand. And so that's been hugely successful.
Do women come back once they're placed? Do you stop, or can they come back? Because once they get out there and they're faced with working on these construction sites, so what do you do there to maintain them? Because it gets ugly out there. My husband's a plumber. He tells me.
Exactly. So we never stop.
They can't lift things.
They can.
But that's the perception.
Exactly.
Right.
So we never stop, fighting against the perception, because the perception is still out there 41 years later. And so...
Surprise.
Yeah. So, our program is about how you lift and carry, being ready to be that first-year apprentice where maybe you're unloading the truck a lot with a lot of heavy equipment. So the women that go through our program and are ready to go out in the trades are ready for that. And then we do provide a lot of support in terms of in our core program, our advanced program, and for women that are in the trades to come back and talk about what it's like out there, what to expect out there, how you'll handle it.
Right, and how to deal with potential harassment and that kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
You had something you wanted to say.
My question, of the women that go into the trades, how many stay? Because it's a difficult road.
Yeah, we've seen it increase. So we see, especially in that first or second year, where we can track it the most closely, we're up to about like 70%, which is a pretty good number. And we think it's because we prepare women well for what they'll face, both physically, mentally, and all the other ways. And then we support them throughout. And there's also a lot of work right now. And so that makes it a lot easier when, because the trades can be cyclical, but right now there's work to be done.
You can see it. You
can see the work.
You can't get down the street. There's so much work.
Yeah.
What about the whole issue around pay equity?
Yeah. So
Because don't you have scales? Meaning, isn't that pretty much set up?
it's set. So, so this is the answer, right?
Right.
For equal pay, we talk a lot about that at our work at New, because this is one of the answers. It's about 95% on the dollar for women, which is pretty amazing, and that's because the wages are...
That's pretty good, especially when it's 78 or 64, depending upon what your ethnicity is.
Depending upon the ethnicity.
Yeah, what your ethnicity is. If you're a woman of color, it's lower.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's pretty good, and that's because it's set. The wages are set by the unions through their collective bargaining agreements, and so the little bit of difference is just, if you can get all that overtime, then that's where you get some extra wages. But the wages are set.
So how do you get your candidates? Meaning, how does that happen? Because there might be somebody. Because typically, I'll walk down the street and somebody will ask me something because they recognize my face.
Right.
How do they get into New? Meaning, how do they get into the program?
Yeah, I mean, our doors are always open. Between word of mouth and advertising and working with other community-based organizations and going out to job fairs, but we always need more ways to spread the word. And then we have information sessions about our program every Tuesday at 10 a.m., every Wednesday at 6 p.m. at our, Restored Firehouse in Chelsea. And so that's the way that people can come in, get on our website and look us up.
Well, this is an incredible program. Now I want to segue to Mimi. And what I found so fascinating about Mimi is that you were a biology and Spanish major, and now you're working in an engineering firm. So how did you do this?
Yes.
How did you do this? Because you are science, so you got the biology.
Absolutely. Yeah, so after I graduated with my degrees in Spanish literature and biology, I moved to New York City and decided that consulting would be an interesting path for me. And I was lucky enough to be hired by an environmental planning firm here in New York back in 1999, and it stuck. I started doing environmental consulting, and I've done it in New York City.
So how did you get the training, though? Meaning, because there's so many certifications, there's so much there.
Yeah, so I basically learned almost everything I've learned on the job.
Wow, that's great.
Which is great. And, I've been lucky enough and privileged enough to work around truly brilliant people, many of whom have been incredible mentors to me and have really taught me that, I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I know who and how to rely on for the information that I may not have readily available to me.
So if I was trying to get into that business today, would I have to take prerequisite courses? Do I have to be licensed? How does it work?
Yeah, so I
And you clean brownfields.
I clean up
basically.
brownfields.
So let's find out. Yeah, we need to talk about
I
that.
take contaminated properties and I investigate them and then design remedial programs that are typically implemented during foundation construction or construction of
So that
buildings.
involves the delineation as well and identification?
Yeah. First we do kind of a historical study. We look at the history of the site. We look at the history of the surrounding area to see why we think building or the area might be contaminated, and then we actually put holes in the
Borings,
ground,
right?
borings,
I know
and
about that
monitoring
work.
wells, and we test soil, groundwater, and soil vapor, figure out if it's contaminated, and figure out where it's contaminated in 3D below grade.
Right.
So kind of in all directions in those three media. And then we look at where's the building going to go? Is it going to have 3 levels of basement? Is it all coming out anyway? And then we design remedial systems that are really implemented directly with construction.
Did somebody take a chance on you? Meaning, I just
That's what
wonder,
it-
that's what it
because,
sounds
you know, in my day job,
Yeah.
you know, we do a lot in terms of talking to the public about what we're remediating. So I want to hear about that.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, how
I
did you
think-
sell yourself?
How did I sell
Or
myself?
how did you grow into this?
Yeah, well, my interview with the first firm that I was hired at was great. It was 2.5 hours. It was with the president of the firm, and I got lucky because the guy that was supposed to interview me was out that day.
So what is it that drives you with it? Meaning, how do you align your passions with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, you know, I'm so passionate about the built environment in New York City. My very favorite thing to do after 20 years of building buildings in New York is drive around with my children or friends from out of town and point to them all and say,
Right.
I
Now,
built
did you
that,
do
I
420
built that.
Kent? Did you say 420 was one?
420
Yeah, I
Kent
know
was one
that.
of
Yeah,
mine.
yeah, I've seen the big sign up there, 420 Kent. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a really beautiful building.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and I've done some iconic buildings. I built the IAC building, which is just stunning in my opinion. And at 420 Kent, I've been working on Greenpoint Landing since 2001 in Brooklyn. So some really, you know, kind of career projects and really iconic sites. It's very exciting.
And so you hear this, Phyllis, she did this without the engineering degree.
Yeah, without the
Right,
degree,
right,
and that's
right,
why I was going to say, my question is, if someone was interested in doing what you're doing, what would you tell them? How would you tell them to go about?
Yeah, so I do a lot of mentoring for young people that are interested in environmental consulting. I tell them when you're in college, you know, make sure to take all of your base science courses.
Right,
If you
right.
want to do what I do, sticking with engineering, you know, environmental chemistry or geology, those are really good subjects to focus on. But it's not just science. There's a lot of communication involved. And really, you know, being able to translate a lot of these really technical and complicated things that I do.
That is so important, to
into
be able
a
to simplify
language.
it.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly, that the public will understand, that the CFO will understand, who just cares about the money piece.
Right, and that's that's so important, to be
Very
able to
important.
just communicate all of that technical information so that people can really make a judgment around
Yes.
it.
Right.
Make
But
decisions,
but
right.
there's also the legal aspect of
The
it,
legal
right?
as
Because
well,
the
yeah.
banks are funding these buildings, you know,
Right.
the Superfund law and all of these
Absolutely,
things.
yeah.
absolutely,
So you really have to have a
absolutely.
wide range of
Yeah.
knowledge
We
to
work
proceed.
very closely with the lawyers on our projects, and you know, I talk about people teaching me from the legal profession. I've learned
Right.
so much over the years.
And now I want to talk to Marilisa Stigliano. I just love that name. Now you're from Italy, but
Yes.
I want you to talk. Now you're an engineer,
Yes,
and it's
I am.
it's a family thing. So talk to us a little bit about your journey